All right, guys, some new comments from President Biden about gas and about how things are going. And this comes against the backdrop of, I'm going to get to this in just a minute, but this guy is so slow to react. I mean, he really, like, not just on gas prices, on student loan debt relief. I mean, he floats these things and he agonizes over for months. And it's like, Jesus Christ, you're like, either do it or don't. I don't know what you're doing with these trial balloons and getting people hopeful and anxious and fighting about it. And then you just do nothing. So in any case, here's the latest from President Biden about how he's thinking about our current situation.
Big time. My dear mother used to have an expression, if anything lousy, something good will happen if you look hard enough for it. Mm-hmm. We have a chance here to make a fundamental turn toward renewable energy, electric vehicles, and not just electric vehicles, but across the board. And that's something we should be, my team is going to be sitting down with the CEOs of the major oil companies this week and try to get an explanation how they justify making $35 billion. In the first quarter.
Are you planning to sit down with oil and gas CEOs,
No.
Mr. President? Why is that, sir?
Because my team's going to do that.
Okay. But you did that with retailers and logistics companies and consumer companies.
Because I had it already done.
I mean, there's a few things.
It's not good enough for you to sit down? What are you doing?
To point to here. I mean, that's number one is like, you know, first of all, I think it's extraordinarily weak that your only action with regards to the oil and gas companies is first they sent out a strongly worded letter. I'm
their
sure.
patriotic duty.
And then you can't even, as the president, sit down directly and press them to their faces.
So weak.
Drag their asses before Congress.
Yeah.
Like, you know, get through the January 6th thing and then drag their asses before Congress and make them explain what they're doing, okay? Push aggressively for a windfall profits tax. I mean, there is so much more that he could be doing. The impotence of just like, my team's gonna meet with them and I sent out a strongly worded letter. Okay. With regards to also, you know, he's not wrong that this should be the moment when we say, hey guys, left, right, center, you know, we got to get through this current crisis, but we got to make sure we're never in this situation again. Galvanize the American people around a nuclear Green New Deal, whatever it is. Yes, aggressively move us towards this future. But you're not doing that. I mean, you can say like, oh, we're going to make lemonade out of lemons, like my mom always said, or whatever, but you're not actually doing that. Yeah. So
the de facto policy of the administration has been, we're all just gonna pay $5 for gas. If you happen to be able to afford a $115,000 vehicle for Tesla, good for you. That's basically it. That's the de facto policy. So when he's saying something good will happen, a chance to make fundamental turn towards renewable energy, that's only for people who are already wealthy.
Yeah, he's clearly, because they're not doing it,
Right.
talking about government strategy to make that affordable, accessible, and a reality for people. Yeah, the only impact's gonna be like a few more upper middle class people will be able to buy Teslas.
Might be able to buy Tesla or a plug-in hybrid or whatever. And look, if you can afford it, go for it. Honestly, I love electric cars. I think they're sweet and I think they're super cool. But the problem that I have with this is that I think Biden is doing tremendous damage to the cause for renewable energy because he's basically telling poor people, yeah, you're just gonna starve and we're not gonna do anything for you in the interim period. So they have no choice but to say, okay, screw it. Then we need to drill as much as possible for oil and gas and to have as much oil and gas and plentiful as possible because we don't have any trust in the elites in order to allay our actual cost increase, which is true. I mean, I don't know how you can not look at this current situation and not see that. So I think he's doing a tremendous damage to a cause I deeply care about, which is electric vehicles and the case for renewable energy, which is genuinely cost effective and makes America stronger and more resilient.
Yeah.
And second, you know, even on oil, I have a real problem with dragging them before Congress and not doing, look, we know the problem as you lay it out on Bill Maher, which is we have a Wall Street imbalance from the oil companies. We can fix it today with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve by buying at a certain reserve price. There's all sorts of things that Biden can do. He has the authority under the 1975, I forget exactly what the act is called, in order to restrict oil exports, imports, impose certain types of restrictions on how exactly they get moved around. Listen, even Exxon is telling you to repeal the Jones Act or make it or lower it for the case of oil in the interim in order to at least not have price disparity across the country. And all they can come up with, this is the really egregious part, let's throw this on the screen, is that he may have a decision on the federal gas tax holiday. Now look, Here's the problem with the gas tax holiday. First of all, most gas taxes are state and local. They have nothing to do with the feds. If they did repeal or pause the Fed gas tax, it would be 18 cents a gallon. That may have made a difference in the past. I'm not saying that that won't save some people around this country some money. However, that also is a de facto surrender because, the gas tax actually pays for a lot of environmental regulation. I'm not saying everybody should have to pay more, but what I'm saying is that the feds could actually do something on the front end of supply and go into the market and reduce the price a hell of a lot more than 18 cents a gallon by not pursuing some idiotic, ham-handed pause because okay, then what, are we just not gonna fund, how are we gonna fund, first of all, the stuff that the gas tax genuinely does pay for? Many of the states who have repealed their gas tax have much more of an impact. Like Pennsylvania, for example, has like a 60-cent gas tax. Georgia has actually repealed its gas tax, but they all have balanced budget amendments, et cetera. But whenever I see this, actually, I've even seen, we had Skanda Amarnath on our show. He's like, this is so dumb because you're just you're basically taking away from the cause without dealing with any of the supply at the front end. And then here's the thing, Krystal, they won't even do it. They're considering it.
So it's like, and they have been considering it, per Jeff Stein, for 4 months. Okay, guys? Figure it out, all right? Do it, don't do it. I think it is a little bit complicated because you can see the case for, all right, let's just give people a little bit of relief. Let's do something. This is something we can do. But to your point, this is a way of avoiding having to directly confront what is an incredibly powerful and moneyed interest in this nation. Because ultimately, this is a way to sort of signal to consumers that you're doing something for them. But in reality, just basically keep the status quo. I mean, ultimately, this is a subsidy to a further subsidy to the oil and gas companies that have been, screwing us over. So that's why this is the only thing they can sort of come to of like, maybe we'll do this. And supply and demand being what they are, if you do reduce the price, you're likely to have more people driving more miles, which is just going to lift the price again.
I have no problem even with people driving more miles. I would love to reduce the price, but we have to do so in a way that actually solves the problem. Because then when does the pause go away?
Right. I'm not even really I would like them to do something, right? I'm not even really opposed to this. It's just, it's dramatically inferior to other things they could be doing, number one. And number two, the hand-wringing about everything is just driving me insane. This presidency, yes, has been hit with a lot of crises, thing after thing after thing, no doubt about it. And they dither on everything. I just don't think you can deny the fact that they are so behind the curve. And, again, on the student loan debt relief, it's the same story. How many months have they been playing with the idea of floating numbers, maybe we'll means test at this level, maybe we'll do 10,000, maybe we won't do it at all. It's like, just from a political perspective, this is so stupid. Either do it or don't do it. But don't float this, get people's hopes up, and then sit around and do what for months and months while this hangs out there. So they also say in the same CNN article that they're still thinking about the student loan debt relief, and they promise they may have an answer sometime soon. We heard that from him before. Remember, didn't he say before, like, next week I'm going to decide? That was like 2 months ago. It's a total, their lack of ability to respond in any sort of an appropriate time frame, let alone anticipate things that are coming at them, is absolutely pathetic. The baby formula crisis, another perfect example, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You knew about it and you waited until newborns were in desperate straits, having to be admitted to the ICU before you did a damn thing about it. So yeah, it's pathetic.
And we gotta show this, that they're also considering doing something which would only further increase the price of oil. Let's put this up there on the screen because these people are idiots. Currently, the US is in talks with the European allies to put price caps on Russian oil that they're willing to buy. This is from the European Union. Now, what have we learned throughout this entire thing about when the West tries to pull away from Russian oil? What happens, Krystal? The Russians say, okay, we'll sell it to you at that discounted price, and then we're gonna make a killing by raising the global price of oil and then selling it at a fake discounted rate to the Chinese and Indians. Putting a price cap on Russian oil, as we have learned with many price controls in the past, is unless you have total and complete control over that commodity, which doesn't work in the global marketplace, then you are simply going to increase the incentive to the Russians to only export even more oil to the Chinese and the Indians while pushing up the price for your own citizens. Because let's say they do cap Russian oil. Great. Well, they got to buy the rest of it from somewhere. You know where that's going to be? Here. Or Venezuela or some other country, which also affects the global price of oil. So all they're doing is dithering currently on gas and then considering more idiotic moves in order to make us all pay for even more. I mean, it would probably skyrocket the crude oil price to like $200 or something dollars a barrel, which is insanity.
The expert here says, so this article says Russia, for example, could retaliate by holding oil from the market, which again, we read to you some of Putin's comments, threatening all sorts of action, in retaliation for our actions against them. So they could retaliate by holding oil from the market. That could immediately drive prices higher as the world's oil producers have very little spare capacity after years of underinvestment in oil fields and refineries. And then they quote an expert here who says every time there's talk about sanctions, the price goes up. Yeah. I also think it's funny that just at a meta level, these same neoliberal economists, if you floated price controls with regard to the domestic, they would, you're stupid, you're like a knuckle drag, you don't understand economics. But then suddenly when it comes to like punishing Putin, then it's like, maybe we should do price controls. Geniuses. How about that?
We're truly being run by geniuses.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.